What up, everybody? It's Carpo here with the Eve Whiz, the evening wisdom. But yo, I call it Eve Whiz because, I like to shorten everything up. Oh, shit. Yeah, anyway, sorry. Let me straighten up here. I stepped outside currently to take a break from the inside, I guess. The daily life and the daily chores and whatnot. Thought I would sit out here with a cup of coffee and make a quick video. I'm trying to remember what I was going to talk about now that I'm out here. Earlier I was thinking about how much I've changed since I started using various means of communication on the internet, such as blogging, vlogging, messages and whatnot, which I didn't do until about 5 years ago. And of course, I remember at the beginning I'd get a little bit defensive, super defensive when people would be, harsh or make a harsh comment. In fact, I was thinking back to some of the stupid things people would say, years ago, and that I, try to fight back and pipe back and say, hey, you don't know what you're talking about, and how much it rolls off my shoulders today. I guess what made me think about it was earlier I ran out in the garage real quick, and I have my computer out in my office, and I clicked and I had 2 comments, and so I checked the first one, and it said, somebody said, fuck off, you cunt, or something like that, or you didn't even look at what I showed you, you cunt, so just fuck off now. And it didn't even faze me, I guess there was a time in my life when somebody said that I may have been offended, but I was just whatever. And then I went to the next message, and it was somebody being harsh, and I thought they were being really harsh to me, like calling me a liar and a fraud and all this, which in the past also would have bothered me, but I just thought, whatever, just another douchebag, But then I realized at the end he was actually talking about somebody else on a video I'd made about something totally separate. But it shows 2 things to me. One, how a miscommunication or misunderstanding in a text could lead a person to be offended or bothered by a comment or, somebody's opinion. And I misunderstood a lot, I'm sure, because of all the videos I make. But then there's the second one, where it's, some people just want to be right, no matter what. You see, what I've realized is that there's many different types of people, of course, but in the realm of possibilities, there are people who are right, and then there are people who think that they're right, that aren't. And of course, the people who pretend to be right when they know they're not. But the thing is that some people seem egotistical because they won't admit that their stupid theories are wrong. However, some people seem egotistical merely because they're always right. I get into a lot of arguments where I end up knowing more about the subject than the person, and people get offended by that for some reason, like, oh, you just think you know everything. And I'm like, God, why does it have to be that way? It seems like the more you know, the more people are threatened by that. And I'm not by any means saying I know everything, not even close to it, or not even that I, know a lot. I've met some really smart people online, but some really dumb people too. And, how well your spell check works when you're typing out your messages, that's not a reflection of who you are, or, the difficulty in finding who's really, in other words, using grammar to determine a person's intelligence does not work. You can't do that. Even if a person, even if spell check didn't exist. I have friends who can't write very well, don't know much, as far as, language skills, but they can speak well and they can think well and they're quick on their feet. So intelligence is not determined by book smarts, we know that. But anyway, my point being that there are a lot of different types of people on the internet, and we all have to be careful about what we say to each other. And I think that it's not a community is another thing I wanted to say. YouTube is not a community. And I thought about that earlier. There are many different communities which use YouTube as an outlet or a way to communicate. YouTube itself is not a community at all. So if people say, oh, YouTubers, or people, the YouTube type people, or this part of YouTube, YouTube is just a collection of many different ideas which are all linked together by similar titles. Okay? So, anyway, long story short, the internet's full of stuff, people, ideas, and I've learned to get along over the years. Oh, that coffee's delicious. With that being said, I don't mind a good argument if it's worthy. In fact, one of the things that, it sucks kind of, because I feel bad for some people. They have some crazy, wild, outlandish theories, and I might question them, and then they get offended by it. Like, it happens all the time. But I can't help but question those theories. I just can't help it. I feel like it's my obligation. People throw around the word troll like it's, like it means nothing. They think everybody's a troll. In fact, I get called a troll every time I ask serious questions and can't get answers on a video. And here's the thing I've realized is when I first started YouTubing, I would seek out videos that disagreed with what I believe. I would seek them out just so I could argue with people sometimes. Not all the time, but I know I did it. And looking back in retrospect, I disagree with that way of being now. Nowadays, I try really hard not to do that. I don't troll people. I make it a point not to. And if I do ask a question, I try to ask a question that's valid. For example, the flat earthers, I don't just go attack them and say, you guys are dumb shits, all your theories are wrong. Maybe some of their theories are correct or plausible or possible. But of course I don't believe that the earth is flat, and I have no, well, who knows what might happen in the future. Maybe they're right, but at this moment I don't believe it. And just like many other theories, conspiracy and otherwise, and I want people, when I discuss with them, to understand that, I'm really only prying to understand myself, because I want to know too. I've been through a lot in my life, and I've been through a lot of research, been down a lot of roads, and I've still been able to keep my happy-go-lucky kind of attitude. I really enjoy life. I really love getting out there and doing stuff, and the trolls don't faze me, man. I mean, it's not even an issue. It's funny because sometimes I get into an argument with somebody online, and they seem to think that their opinion is if they think that their opinion isn't valid, or they think that I'm going to be offended, I let them know that, hey, all discourse is welcome, all discussion. I'm not going to put you down because you don't agree with what I say. But it seems like the other person always seems to want to attack me personally, or turn it into cursing and whatnot. And it becomes uncivil and not even worth it. But looking at my old self, I probably would have tried to gain proofs and get my evidence together so I could send them links. And I think, how much time wasted with people like that? People like McCleary, if anybody remembers that guy. Oh my God, what a douchebag. I mean, but the thing is, I still love the guy. I still realize that, what he was doing in his mind, as a human, he was just a hurting fellow. If you're out there, Mac, it's all good. Oh man, people crack me up. But the things people used to say would get to me, and I'm glad that I've gotten past that. I feel like that I've grown so much from just talking to people online, on YouTube, because I talk to so many people every day with so many opinions. It's just amazing. I'd never be exposed to that many people anywhere else, You can have several discussions with a person over a period of weeks and get to know them really well, and several different people each day. And I remember saying at one time that an internet friend could never be as valid as a real friend, and I'd still believe that flesh and blood communication is important. But I think you could meet someone on the internet if you know them well enough through talking to them, and trust them if you understand how people are and you trust the person. And I met a guy, John, on here, and let him stay at my house and stuff, because I'd only talked to him through YouTube. But I just knew he was a good guy. I'd seen his videos, and I trusted him. And man, good people are really hard to come by. I mean, I hate saying that because there's people out there that's insinuating that some people out there aren't good people. But it's just true. I mean, some people in this world just are not good people. It sucks. And I'm not talking about the elite or the rich. I'm talking about everybody. There are maybe more sociopaths in places like CEOs and in rich positions, but I think pretty much it's general across the board. There are some people out there that just don't give a fuck. Sociopaths are just a small percentage of them. The rest of them are just lazy, don't want to do any homework or really look anything up. They want to have a valid discussion about something, but they don't want to understand it. And this goes for everything in life. And I've seen this through this recent political process and what's going on here in my country. Oh my God. Sorry, I had to take a pull off my vape pen there. Donald Trump. I'm going to be perfectly honest right here. I've gained a new respect for the guy. I still think he's a complete douchebag. I don't respect him. I wouldn't want him to be president, and I don't like him as a human. But I have a respect for his tactile aggression at attacking this presidency. I found out that he had planned this a few years ago. He was actually... he was asked if he wanted to be mayor of New York, and he turned it down, saying he was going to run for president. And when asked, how and whatnot, he said he was going to use the media and just keep the attention on him. And they said, you can't win through media alone. And he said, I beg to differ. And, that's just the beginning. It's not like he's a fool. So my initial impression of Trump was that he was a fool, and I know better now. I guess I never really thought he was a fool. I just thought that he was really dumb and thought he could actually do the things he's saying he could do. But now that I realize that he's just saying that in order to get attention and to get votes, then I have to respect that, even though it's a complete blatant lie. But it looks like Bernie Sanders is finally out. I hate to say that. I mean, we were really wanting him to get in there, but unless he really pulls forward heavy here pretty quick, it's not looking good. But anyway, I want to keep this video timeless and not relevant to any particular politics, but I found this to be a looking glass into our lives, if you will, a looking glass into the way the nation thinks. When people talk about waking up and how people need to stop being swayed by the media and stop being swayed by, all these different, the bullshit that we see on television and elsewhere. Everybody's telling us what we need and what we should look like and how we should feel and what we should be. And we're starting to learn and know better. But at the same time, it's obvious that a lot of people haven't because of the fact that, because they're voting for Trump. And that's hard for me to say, because now I don't want to call people ignorant if they vote for Trump, because I know they're not. I understand the anger. I understand the frustration that comes with wanting change, and at the point, I know a lot of really smart people who have given good, valid points in saying, well, we've given up on the same old politics. And hey, maybe a guy like Bernie is a little too weak. Who knows? I don't know. I'd really like to see him try. But if he doesn't win, and Trump does win, all I can say is, I have to look at the positive side of it, if there is one, and say, well, we'll see what happens with a clown in there like that. Maybe if a belligerent guy can't change it, and, Obama, who intended to change many things, who knows what happened with his presidency. But this whole thing has been an experiment in human thought process in America. And it amazes me because I grew up with, the same old white guys in suits running for office. And then finally, we have a black president, and now we have a woman running, and and an independent, and then we have a billionaire. It's like a circus, and the whole thing just shows that people will lean towards whatever gets the most attention and whatever sounds the most appealing off the bat without looking at the evidence. That's my thought on it. I mean, I'm sure I'll get, rebuttal for supporting Bernie, but, I had a discussion with somebody earlier, and he said his argument was that Bernie was lazy. And he said, hey, how would you feel if you worked really hard and somebody wasn't, somebody else wasn't working or was collecting unemployment. And then so I looked it up and found out Bernie Sanders, he didn't work very much until he was older, but he was working his ass off to get into office is what he wanted to do. But meanwhile, while other people were working, he was working towards civil rights. He was working towards helping people. People don't get enough credit for those kind of jobs. And I feel like a guy like Sanders has worked hard for the people. So that's just my opinion on it. And of course, politics are just politics. But stepping back from the whole thing and looking at it in a perspective, it's a pretty interesting election, interesting time. I don't know what to make of it all, but I sit out here and sip my coffee and think about all of it. People and life and the whole this whole system that we live in. I made a decision years ago not to look at it like a burden. Never. In fact, 10 minutes ago, before I started this, I was sitting in my kitchen thinking about life and how so many people think of it as a burden, and how it's not a burden at all, how it's so easy to live. People make it seem hard, and it's not. People see others with stuff and they want that stuff. But the reality is, if you have shelter and you have food and you're not starving and skinny and dying, what else do you really need? I know that we as humans want more, but the fact is, I don't know, I have this belief that whatever, most of the time when a person wants something, if they work hard enough for it, they can get it. We talk about the power of the human mind and the power to achieve and intention. But a lot of people want to sit around and complain and don't try. And many of these people who don't try do collect welfare. And these are the people that others use to say we shouldn't have nationalized health care and that kind of stuff. In other words, what I'm saying here is, if everyone took responsibility for themselves and did their own thing and made their own way and really tried harder, I think we could all do better. It's just that there's no incentive to grow because we feel like we're pinned down as the lower class. I'll tell you something, I've lived hand to mouth all my life. I've always tried to make enough to get ahead and save a little money. There was one time when I saved up like 10 grand between my wife and I, and then something happened. There's a funeral and we had to help pay for it, and boom, it all got depleted. Bought a car. It's gone, or fixed a car or whatever. It's always something, but I can't imagine what it's like to have a surplus of money to where I can go out and just do my things and not have to worry about it. And people who have those means, they don't get it. They don't understand. People like Trump, and that's why I don't relate to him. I don't relate to people who have means and who've always had means, because they don't realize what is really important to people. That's being able to put food on the table and afford your house and not worry about mortgage payments. If you can fulfill those simple things in life, it keeps people happy. It makes them less angry. And people are much less abrasive and rude to each other when they can afford to do what they need to do to live. But, alas, we as humans do the best we can, even in the palest of circumstances. I see people really making an effort in this world to just live the best they can. I'm only looking through my eyes, but through these eyes, every day, I have dozens of thoughts about what it means to be alive, and every time there's that brief glimpse of reality that I will never know, and that this is way too complex for man to grasp. And the more I learn about the metaphors, and every year I gain a little bit more insight into ancient history, and I read and reread all the books and go through all the source texts of, history, and try to learn Hebrew and little bits and pieces here and there, and piece together this whole picture of how humanity has always looked for something greater. And I just looked at my time, and I'm out of time, and my card's going to run out of memory, so thanks for watching. Have a great night. Peace.